أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم الصلاة والسلام عليك يا رسول الله. This is the podcast of the Inn of an Old Woman. Do you know, when we think and reflect, we come to the conclusion that our story starts with Prophet Adam alayhi salam and Hawa. It illustrates to us that the most important thing in life is for us to be saved or protected or sheltered from our number one enemy, which is the shaitan. And whom do we seek protection from? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the lesson, the first lesson as human being that we have to learn. And we have to make our children understand how the devil is an open enemy to mankind as it's tried to seduce our great-great-great-grandparents. And subhanallah, so, do you know, when it tempted them to eat from this tree that Allah has forbidden, is to illustrate to us. Look, Allah didn't just say to us, shaitan is your number one open enemy. No, He illustrates to us to tell us the story so that we comprehend, so we understand, so we are fully aware and we know each direction that the shaitan can come to attack us. And Allah says in the Quran that, Allah commanded Adam and Eve to eat whatever they want to eat, Jannah, but don't go near that tree. But the shaitan tempted them. And then, look at the mercy of Allah. Allah said they slipped. He didn't say they were evil and they were wicked and they committed a big sin that could never be forgiven. No, look at the mercy of Allah. Wallahi, how much love is embedded in Allah's love embedded in everything for us, everything created for us, because He loves us. So Allah tells us that the Adam and Eve slipped, and then subhanallah, Allah taught them a prayer of forgiveness. Allah didn't leave them just like that, they made a mistake and oh no, what we'll do now, and we're doomed and we are we're punished forever and pulling out our hair. No, Allah has shown them how to ask forgiveness. And this is another prime example for us that when we are messed up right up to the, from the earth to the sky full of sins, it's never too late to come back to Allah. Allah, doors of forgiveness is always open. Okay, and subhanallah, this story of Adam and Eve has so many different dimensions. It has so many different aspects. It has so many lessons. It has so many direction and perspective to it. Subhanallah, you cannot exhaust them. But one of them, understanding is that when the shaitan made them slip and he took their clothes off and they looked at themselves and they had haya with Allah, but that was stripped away when their clothes were stripped away by the devil, and they became really embarrassed. And some scholars say, Allahu alim, that it's at that time when ego was created, was born within us. So this ego that we have, which is the opposite to the obedience of Allah, because it's always prompting us. And in the Quran, Allah calls it amara, nafs amara bisu, that ego that always to command us to do wrong thing, to do evil thing. Some say that at that time that might have been developed. Allahu alim. So when we look at when a child is born, we see that every child is born with the knowledge of Allah. Look, subhanallah. Do you know when Allah created all our souls? When He created Adam and Eve, and he tapped the back of the Adam, and all the souls came out, you and me, and right till the end of Day of Judgment. And then Allah said to them, am I not your Lord? And we said, of course. We all had that knowledge. When we came into this earth, we had all that knowledge within us. And that's why, Quran is called a reminder. It reminds us, it enables that knowledge of knowing one true God and worshipping one true God, being obedient to one true God, to shift or to move this understanding from the subconscious into consciousness. So there's a shift, and that's the drama of life is about. And that's where Allah sent prophets to remind us again and again what is our purpose. What is our purpose on this earth is to worship one true God. So that all of us have embedded in us this understanding, and we bury it in subconscious and we just leave it there. It tries to emerge into consciousness, because wallahi, every time a human being is in trouble, they always call out, oh God. And Allah gives us his example, subhanAllah, beautiful example in the Quran, where people were in the ship and, it was dark, a really dark night, and there was no moon, and there was cloud upon a cloud, and there was a great thunder and a great storm, and the ship was drifting like a little speck, in the sea, here, there, and it was at that time when people called out to God. But subhanAllah, when Allah saved them, he put them on the earth, they forget. And wallahi, so many stories we hear of people when they're on the aeroplane and the aeroplane is they're going to crash for whatever reason. There could be a malfunction or accident. And that time, everybody looks for Allah and everybody starts praying, because this fitrah is embedded in all of us, this true nature, knowledge of God. Okay, so every child is born with a knowledge of God, but it is immediate family or society that shapes our understanding. So subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ said, every child is born fitrah, or natural disposition, or true understanding of one true God, or knowing and being obedient to one true God, and then it's the parents that make him a Muslim, a Christian, or a Jew. Okay? Now, the early years of a child, and it's the environment, it's the parents, it's the school, it's the friends that develop this ego. So, subhanAllah, you see, every child is normally curious. They say, when they start developing speech, they said, who made this and who made that? Because it's that natural fitrah that tries to flourish, that tries to emerge from the subconscious into the conscious. So the child realizes that. So every child asks the parents, and there could be children of atheist or agnostic or whatever faith they have, but children normally ask, all these questions because they want to know, what's the answer to the profound question. And subhanAllah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us that when we give them the right answer and we develop their thinking, that everything's made by God. Who made the moon? And you say, Allah made the moon. Who made So you give that understanding to the child from get-go. And at that time we create God-centric human being, or God-centric character, a God-centric consciousness, or God-centric perspective or mindset or understanding the world. And subhanAllah, it's really important for parents to nurture their children in a correct manner. Wallahi, we don't realize this beautiful gift of children Allah has given us. We don't see the responsibility we have in nurturing our children. And, I remember when I was young, when I had mine, I had no idea how really to implement all that great knowledge. And I remember once I went to a friend's house and I found a list that she had written, the food that she gives to her young children, a wholesome, halal food in order to nurture this fitrah. Because, mashallah, she was a well-knowledgeable sister. And subhanAllah, her children became, people of taqwa when they grew up. So it's really important how we bring up our children. So Allah tells us that, He created everything in truth. And that's why we have to tell the children, and we ourselves have to understand that everything is created by truth. Our heart are also created upon the truth. And that's why we have to look after our heart and not let it be corrupted by the ego. So we have to maintain that natural fitrah of knowing Allah and developing taqwa. Each one of us have responsibility to do that. So, and the heart, Allah tells us that truly in the remembrance of God, the hearts find tranquility. Look, from the minute we are born and we become children, and then we become adolescent, is that time, as it is at that time, our realization should be complete that there's only one God worthy of worship, and to offer your total obedience to Him, and to understand that it's only the remembrance of God that the heart finds tranquility. But subhanAllah, we live in a secular society where the ego is enhanced, is developed, is encouraged. This individualistic and relativism and secular society that we live in, all about me. The enhancing this development of the ego. So when the child is growing, they are developing the understanding of one true God, who is the creator and maintainer, director and protector of all the universe. When this becomes their reality, then it will become easier to navigate in the adult life. And then it will be easier for them to understand which part of behavior or the prompting is from ego and which is from the truth, from haqq. So they can sieve out, the negative thoughts or the thoughts that lead to destruction, to the thoughts that are good, the thoughts that are, God-centric, to worship and obey Allah and to serve humanity. Because we have to be, the children have to be trained to be true Khalifa of Allah. So you see how important it is for us as parents to be responsible for the little children. And just subhanAllah, if the child is not being taught this truth, that there's only one God, there's only Allah, the true reality, who is controlling and maintaining, and is the true creator who deserves our undivided, uncorrupted worship, true, sincere worship. When the child hasn't been, taught that, they're just left on their own devices to work what this life is about. So they try to, think, how should I go through the life? And it's normally then, that's when life is generated by the ego that they developed. So if they haven't been guided by the parents, in Islamic household, often the ego develops in them, which, it's all about me. They become ego, centric. And subhanAllah, it's quite ironic that a lot of human beings fall into that category, that they have the egocentric life, that all they care about is themselves. And that's why we have so many broken relationships, and we have so many divorce, and we have so much misery around the world, because we cannot be sincere. If we can't be sincere even to ourselves and to Allah, we cannot be sincere to other people. Wallahi, those people who are sincere to Allah, who are genuine, who are truthful, who are trustworthy, are people worthy of developing relationship with. SubhanAllah. We shouldn't go on any other criteria. That may be part of it. And subhanAllah, I remember years ago I heard a conversation between two girls, and they were talking about the selection, how they selected their partners. And one of them said, I really like him, blah, blah, because he has a good sense of humour. And wallahi, even as a young girl, I thought to myself, what good is that? That's just one little aspect. How can you base the whole, your relationship on one criteria that he's got here good humour? And if he doesn't, what about the other aspect of life? Because as a Muslim, we know the first thing is to look at the taqwa, to see the relationship with the Creator. When that's intact, when that's good, then their relationship with others will be good as well. Okay. So when we leave the children without, telling them about Allah, but teaching them Islam, by, telling them how to conduct their life in this world, then what happens? The ego develops, and this I, me, and mine is it I, me, my, and mine. And this is a mostly, it's a very selfish character, where the child, the adult, when they turn into one, they put themselves first and they don't have consideration for others. And then is that such characters that they can't hold relationships down, and they drift from one relation to the other, developing a meaningless and useless relationship which never last. And when our relationships are not good, we are in trouble, because a messy relationship always leads to anxiety, depression, unhappiness, and unfulfilled lives. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. Allah tells us that He has shown us, He's given us a manual, a guide, that how we're supposed to develop, making Allah in the center of our lives. Is Wallahi, today, these days, so easy with the internet. Everybody has access to it. It's just a click of a button and you can have translation of the Quran. So when the adult have this egocentric mindset, and they're not directed towards being Allah, God-centric, the ego that is developed in them has distracting them from finding true happiness. And they're forever chasing wealth, position, power, status, entertainment, social media. They're always running after those things, which never gives one's fulfillment. It never fulfills them. And the life is a constant pursuit of that. And wallahi, as I've said many times before, that I had somebody, if you ask people who work in hospice, and they see dying people, often they will tell you their regret is that they wasted their life on doing something that wasn't fulfilling. Subhanallah, look how they come to realize that. Subhanallah. And we all humans we look for, acceptance, validation, we look for love, and all these things. And wallahi, I tell you, when we submit our will to Allah, that's when this thing is created within us. We have this fulfillment, we have this contentment, we have this love. Wallahi, love it just seeps into the heart, and you're always content. And that's when we put things in the right order. We have to prioritize our life by making Allah the center of our lives and everything after that. And subhanallah, Allah, the most merciful Lord, tell us it's never too late to return back to Allah and make Him our priority. And then the ego will shrink. It will take its rightful place in the human being, to take care of the body and physical needs, but to allow the spiritual need to be fulfilled by worship one God, living by Islam, and living by Quran, to be selfless, to develop compassion for others. So Allah tells us in the Quran that Quran is a book of guidance. Look, subhanallah, we all want guidance. And even, the practical, these days, the sat-nav navigation that we have in our vehicles, how much we depend on that for guidance. Wallahi, and this is just a physical thing. Can you imagine the Quran, which is a spiritual, social, economical, political, you name it, it guides every aspect of our life. And not only it ends in this world, it continues. Your fruits of it will continue after death. How wonderful is that? The Quran is a book of guidance. It's a book of healing. Look, subhanallah, wallahi, how many of us are broken from inside? How many of us are injured from inside? How many of us are so, fragmented from inside? How many of us are troubled from inside? And the cure is easy. The Quran calls itself a healing. The more we depend on the Quran, the more we read, ponder, reflect, and act upon, bring Quran alive in our lives, the more we'll be internally healed. Because it's a guidance and it's a healing. And subhanallah, Allah tells us a book of light. Subhanallah, look at that. How much we need light. Physically we need the sun, otherwise we can't exist. And then can you imagine when we have a power cut? I remember we used to live in a country where, they would have a power cut. It would become pitch dark in an instant. And you realize the benefit and the need for light. And that's how it is. Those of us who have neglected the Quran, who have thrown it behind our back, we are just fumbling in the dark. We are fumbling in the dark because we have no light. And then Allah tells us the Quran is book of wisdom. Subhanallah, how wonderful it is to be, a wise person. So subhanallah, all these things are totally opposite to self-centered ego, where the ego deludes us and it doesn't, it pursues the things that don't give us happiness, like position, power, and so forth. And most of us human beings are chasing after these things, and we will never be fulfilled because we are looking for happiness in the wrong place. The more we chase them, the more they move away from us. So we should realize that this, distraction created by ego and anxiety and restlessness emerges directly from the ego. And it upsets us and become agitated when things go wrong. We always look for others to blame. And yet we have only ourselves to blame. It's that the ego makes us create this self-delusion and thinking that I'm always right and other is always wrong. And subhanallah, this is the tragedy of a human being, that we do not understand what this world is about. And Islam came to make it so clear to us that worship your Lord who created you. Thank you.